Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 2022 film Moloch, and it's a Shudder original, and it's coming to Shudder on Thursday, July 21st. So this is a no spoiler review for that reason. Now you can watch this if you've already seen the film though, and it'll mean a little bit more to you in that sense, but you can certainly watch it without having seen it. Maybe get an idea of if you want to watch it or not. I did enjoy it enough to definitely recommend it. It's directed by Nico Brink, who also did Avonland and The Burden. Have not seen those films. Written by Brink and Daan Bakker, who did Quality Time and Zenith's Supercharged Family, which I believe was a TV show. It's a Dutch film, just so you know. So it's partially in Dutch. It's partially in English, actually. It's weird because the main character kind of interacts with her family and a lot of other people within the town in Dutch. And then there's kind of an outsider who comes in who speaks English, and when she's interacting with that person, or any scenes having to do with that person, those are in English. So it's a mix. I didn't really fully understand it. I thought maybe they should just go full Dutch, but I don't know. It's fine. It doesn't make that big of a difference. Again, coming Thursday, July 21st to Shudder. Quick synopsis, it's about a woman and her family who live like at the edge of a bog, and something ends up being unearthed kind of archaeologically. Once that happens, some things start to happen within the town, some things start to happen with them, especially because they live right there. That's about as much as I'm going to say. It's got this, creepy, dark atmosphere to it. There's scary stuff to it. Obviously, it's horror, so I think it's pulled off relatively well, but I'll talk a little bit more about that. There's an opening kind of flashback scene. It tells you the year. I think it's 1991 that they're showing you kind of a little bit of backstory on it. Pretty compelling. A very compelling kind of way to hook you into the story initially, and they come back to that scene later in the film, so they don't just do it and then drop it like a lot of films actually do. They do it, get your interest, and then they come back to it and kind of expand upon it. So yeah, I think it's a good way to get you interested. Now, obviously, with a lot of these films, they'll hit you with something very exciting and interesting at first, and then they got to take it back a bunch, slow it down, let you meet the characters, let you understand their relationships with each other, who they are as people, blah, 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 blah. So that definitely happens here. As far as pacing goes with the film, for the most part, the pacing is decent. There are a few times where I felt like it started to drag a little bit. Probably could have been cut down a little bit, not too much. It's an hour and 38 minutes with credits, so felt like it could have lost maybe 10 minutes out of it, maybe 10 minutes, maybe not even that much. So, like I said, pacing relatively fine. They do a relatively good job of kind of like dropping enough things, whether it's a little extra piece of information about what's going on or something kind of surprising or scary. So it's like these breadcrumbs at certain intervals. It has a good, creepy, dark look to it. I will say that much. It is definitely one of those films that's very drab in color. So if you don't like that, I'm sorry. A lot of films do this, so I just kind of expect it at this point. It fits what the film is. It looks just dreary all the time. Which helps with kind of like a dark, gloomy atmosphere. The directing's well done, the cinematography is well done, so it looks very, very nice. About 30 minutes into the film is when something, other than the very beginning portion of that kind of like flashback, 30 minutes in is when you get your first kind of like big horror thing that starts kicking more stuff off. And then after that, it's at pretty decent intervals that some horror-related things happen. Or, thriller-ish type things. One thing I do not like about this film, the music is over the top. The music composition, I'm good with. I think it's totally fine. I think it's quite good. It's over the top. It gets cranked up to 11 quite a few times, and this is something I harp on all the time with my reviews. We don't need to be shouted at by the filmmakers. We can figure out when we're watching the film and listening to the dialogue and everything, how we should be feeling or how we want to feel in that moment. I feel like it's even more powerful to kind of let audiences feel how they want to feel. Just kind of like look around, just take everything in instead of leading you so much by yelling at you with these really loud songs, or this really loud score that's just saying, you're supposed to be terrified, there's something creepy going on. And it's like, I don't need you to yell at me to tell me that. Like, I'm watching it, I'm experiencing it. So that's one thing I really did not like about the film. Once again, it feels like it drags from time to time. Not too bad, though. Eventually, you do understand the significance of the title, which is pretty cool. The significance is pretty cool. The title, at first, I was like, okay, this I assume it's going to tie in. I hope it's going to tie in. Titles don't always do that. So I appreciate that they really tied this one in. And once they actually do that reveal, I was like, okay, I'm even more interested in this story now. So I like where it goes. I like what the title ends up meaning. There's some good creepy imagery that really works in this film. Once again, looking really good. I think they create a very creepy, dark, depressing type of atmosphere, and they maintain that quite well. So when this creepy imagery comes up, it feels at home, and it just adds to the overall experience of kind of just like dread and, terribleness, basically. In a good way, obviously, because it's a horror film. That's what we want. Certain degree of terribleness. What's going on in the film actually does change a bit toward the end, which I think was a good choice. It's definitely a film where I was kind of thinking that it may end up going a certain way based off how things were playing out initially, but that it certainly changed. There's a point in there, I think it's around like a little bit after an hour into the film, where they do a bit of a pivot, and there's something introduced, a little bit of information where you're kind of like, they don't say it outright necessarily. Oh no, actually one of the characters does. You start to get an inkling first, and then one of the characters says something outright, and then they kind of like leave some dead air, which I think is a good idea, because that's that moment for like the audience to kind of be like, oh, or oh no, that type of thing. So I like how they made that pivot there. It was done in a good way, even though one of the characters did straight up call it out. I usually have problems with those types of things, but I think the way in which it was done was good. Especially because, kind of funny, the character basically says it in a way that they don't even necessarily mean it necessarily. They're kind of like, seemed like they were kind of joking about it, but then you as an audience member are like, oh no, you're actually right. And I think one of the other characters was basically like, you're right. The resolution is kind of but because here's the thing. I thought the movie was coming to an end, basically, based off of the resolution they had going on for what was happening. And then, a lot of the times after the film, they have the resolution, and then they'll go back to kind of like everyday life with some of the characters to show you the aftermath, to show you where those characters went or how they deal with things, stuff like that. So they go to that, basically. And the resolution prior to that, I was kind of like, but then they go to that. But then, trust me, there is something after that that makes the ending significantly better. It made it pretty solid, in my opinion. I did enjoy it. So in the end, I think the time invested was well worth it for the payoff you get at the end of the film. And it does leave you with, I'm not going to say like a cliffhanger. It definitely leaves you with a thing where you're just like, man, kind of a gut punch in a sense. Definitely a gut punch. Even though you do kind of see it a little bit coming, but the reveal of it and how they visually do it is quite well done. So I enjoyed it. Out of 5 stars, half stars in play, I'm going to give this a very good 3.5 star ratings, or 3.5 stars rating. Sometimes, some days, but I would love to hear other people's opinions once you've seen the film. If that's now or later, you can come back to the video, put some comments down there, and we can go ahead and talk spoilers in the comments. That is fine. So if you do not want spoilers, don't read the comments, but you can leave your own comment talking about this film or other horror stuff or whatever, because I like to get nerdy about horror, obviously, based off of how long I've been doing this and the videos I put up. But yeah, that would be awesome, commenting. Do me a favor, hit subscribe if you can, and, literally you can. It is quick, it is painless, it costs you no money, and it really makes me happy. It literally motivates me to keep doing these videos, so I really do appreciate that. Also hit the notification bell button because then you'll know when I'm putting up each of my videos, which I'm doing 4 a week at this point, which I think is a good amount. But anyway, I really do thank you for taking your time to watch this particular video, and until next time, keep it brutal.